Here are some tips to help you shine on your test. Please take notes. Tip number 1, be prepared. Make a checklist of everything that you'll need the day of the test. Can you guys use the chat and let me know what are some of the things that you're definitely going to need on this day? There's one in particular that I can think of. If you don't take it, you're not allowed in. ID, very good. You have to have a government issued photo ID, so make sure you have that with you. Okay, very good. What else? Is each one of you specifically going to need on that day? We're going to talk later about motivating music. So because I'm going to urge you to arrive to the test site early, I want you to have some music or some meditation or something queued up that you can work for yourself during that time while you're waiting. You not sit there and be nervous. The letter, your glasses, the letter from the testing center, absolutely. So I want you guys to make sure that you have all the things you're going to need. You make your list and be sure that before you leave, self-confidence, definitely, definitely, Angie. Before you leave for the exam, make sure you have everything on this list. Tip number 2, I want you to plan a stress-free day. I really urge you, if it's possible for you to take the day off from work and just focus the whole day on passing this test, do that. Do everything that you need. Don't put yourself the night before or the day of the test in any type of stressful situation. And as I mentioned before, if you can take the day off before the test, even better. If you can take 2 days, the day before and the day of, even better. So whatever logistics you need to do to program that, I urge you to do it. The next tip, and we've talked about this incessantly, so I'm not going to really beat it too much like a dead horse. I don't want you to study the day of the test. Researchers have shown that people perform better when they don't cram the day of the exam or the day before the exam. If you do feel like practicing, do an easy shadowing exercise. This tip might seem very silly, but it's very important. Wear comfortable clothes and take layers. I have heard horror stories of test sites that are too cold, that are too hot. I want you to feel comfortable. I don't want anything distracting you from focusing on the content of this exam. So make sure that you're comfortable and you have stuff you can shut off or layers that you can put back on. Okay. On the day of the exam, I want you to pay a lot of attention on what you ingest. For me, a light, high protein meal allows me not to crash. So, a boiled egg or some hummus, something that'll be light, that won't be bothering you, something that you're used to eating that won't make you crash. And if I were you, I would avoid sugar and any other type of energy food that might make your energy drop. I would keep my portion small so I don't have to feel weighed down. And then finally, when it comes to water, make sure you're hydrated, but don't drink too much water so you don't have to be distracted by the fact that you got to pee. Okay, so stay reasonably hydrated, but avoid drinking way too much water. All right. The next tip, and I really urge everyone to do this because you can use this as your prep time. I don't know if you guys have, I mentioned to you guys before, I don't know if you remember it, about Mike Phelps and many swimmers and many Olympians, many athletes in the Olympics who do that prep, and you see them with headphones, listening to music, preparing for their swim or preparing for their physical feat that they're about to perform. So arriving 20 minutes early to the test site, making sure you map out the test site, making sure you know exactly where to park. If you can take public transportation or if you can take an Uber, whatever it is, so you don't have to worry about parking, make it as smooth as possible. And then when you arrive to the test site, use this time to prep yourself. Okay, so while you're waiting to be allowed in, practice guided imagery and breathing techniques. Today, we're going to practice a little bit of that at the end of class. Okay, but also if you can take music that really pumps you up, that gets you excited while you're waiting, because you're not going to be allowed, if you arrive 20 minutes, 15 minutes early, you're not going to be allowed in the test site immediately. So take that time before you put your things in your locker to really pump yourself up, whether it's breathing, listening to music, visualizing, imagery, whatever you can do to get yourself pumped. Or if you want to read a book that makes you happy, affirmations, all of that works. The next tip is once you enter the test site and before your exam begins, be diplomatic yet assertive regarding what you need. This is the time before the test begins for you to ask any questions that you still have and for you to speak up if the room conditions are distracting to you. If there's something noisy, if the temperature is not good, if there are poor lighting conditions, politely request what you need so they can make the adjustments before the test begins. okay? And ask about any important issue that is not clear to you. We're going to go into a lot of logistics today, so I hope none of this will be necessary and you guys will have a smooth experience. But speak up if anything malfunctions, and remember, if your requests are denied, remain calm and do your best. So by this point, you should be very familiar with the test guidelines. You should have read the FCICE handbook, but so the questions that you should have to the proctor or the request should be particular to the test site if there's something unusually loud or whatever. But today we're going to talk about the self-administering technology, so you don't have to really bump into any surprises. Tip number 9, once the test begins, don't dwell on what you don't know or can't control. Just keep going. Remember, you have to be prepared, but you also have to expect the unexpected. Okay, so you've done the work, you've put in a lot of hours and a lot of effort. Now this is the time to let go. And sometimes conditions are not ideal, but you have to perform under them anyway. So this is a tip I learned from Athena, and I really, really like it. For you to expect 5 to 10 vocabulary units that you're going to miss. 5 to 10 vocabulary units that you just don't know. Even if you get 10 vocabulary units that you miss, you will still get a passing score. So don't be surprised when that word comes up, that expression comes up that you don't know. Just do a mental note in your head. Oh, there you are. Unit number 1 that I have no idea. Oh, there you are. Unit number 2. And keep your cool and keep going. Okay, that way they're not going to surprise you when they come up. If you draw a blank on a particular term, you have several options, and we're going to practice them today because this should not be theory, this should be second nature. So the several options are: first, you say it in the same source language exactly as you heard it. So you're going to be a parrot. So you say the exact same word. So if you're interpreting into English and something was in Spanish, you say the term in Spanish and you move on, and then you continue back into English. You can skip it and act like nothing happened, or you can give it your best shot. You can guess interpret it according to the context. Okay, these are your 3 choices. We're going to practice each one of them today until they become automatic. And I want you guys to choose the one that you feel best with. You're going to hear yourself and you're going to say, you know what, when I do the skipping, that's when I feel my best. I don't skip a beat. Or no, I don't like skipping. I prefer living in the original language, or I prefer to just guess. Whatever you choose, that's what you're going to stick with, but you're going to have a plan. My personal preference is to guess interpret whenever you can. The context will give you a lot of clues, so you can put things in there that are a little more generic. So if you don't know the specific name of a gun, but you know they're talking about a gun, you say gun. If you don't know the specific name of a tool, but you know they're talking about a tool, you say tool. You leave it generic. What my professor in the university used to call palabras costales. Una palabra costal es una palabra que le puedes meter cualquier cosa, como un costal de papas, un costal de maíz, un costal de harina. Le puedes meter lo que tú quieras. Una palabra costal es una palabra general que le puedes meter lo que tú quieras allí. Okay? Another tip, once the test begins, ignore your proctor. Just concentrate on your performance and try to block out everything else. By now, you should have practiced interpreting when there's noise, interpreting when they're distracting things. If you haven't, please do so before your exam. Okay. Once the exam begins, when you start interpreting, I want you to focus on really understanding the message. If you can visualize and remember to do that, it's a very powerful tool. Visualize on accurately expressing the meaning and sounding clear and confident. Remember, 90% of what we do, well, I wouldn't say 90, but at least 40% of what we do is acting. So you have to portray this confidence. Even if you're a little kitten, you have to portray the image of a lion. Okay, so I want you guys to fake it till you make it. All right. Today, we're going to deal with this, which is using your repetitions wisely. As you recall, you are allowed 2 repetitions during the consecutive portion. So I want you to use it wisely. Okay, we're going to practice that today. And if you're still nervous, breathe and fake it till you make it. It is your job to sound like you're not nervous. So you should have practiced this by now. After your test, I want you to give yourself a well-deserved rest because you put in so much hard work. So if you can rest the day afterwards, great. If you can't, at least the 2 days, the day before and the day of. Okay. So that's all the tips I have for now. There's actually 2 more things that I thought of after I had put this PowerPoint together for you guys. One thing that helps me a lot in the simultaneous is to use the pen and paper for numbers. I am very dyslexic when it comes to numbers. Just saying numbers from one language to another always messes me up. And to be honest with you, in the same language, it messes me up. Like I'm seeing the number 5 and I say the number 3, even if I'm working in the same language. I don't know why that is. And I was pretty good at math at school, but I was never good at saying numbers accurately. So if you share that quirk with me, when you hear numbers in the simultaneous mode, take note of those numbers and it'll help you a great deal. If that helps you also with names, do that. Just because you're doing a simultaneous mode doesn't mean you can't doodle and help yourself with doodles. Another tip that I thought of after I had put together this PowerPoint is on your sight translation. Do you guys remember what happens? What is the when it comes to your lips, what we suggested that you do? What should your lips do when you don't know what you're doing? Very good, Ariana. Your lip, very good, Gloria. Your top lip and your bottom lip should go together. You should not be saying and all these false starts. Remember, fake it till you make it. Read that little sentence again, that one sentence or that portion. We talked about chunks. It could be something right before the comma, something right before a natural pause, before any punctuation. Read it again silently and then begin opening your mouth once you're confident in what you're saying.